The Still Loading podcast is brought to you by the wonderful people on Patreon. Amazing people like Kevin from the Bit by Bit Foundation, Matt aka Stormageddon, Ryan K, Stephen P, Gilmer, and Mr. Biscuits have all been wonderful enough to support the show over there. So if you would also like to get your name read at the beginning of an episode along with a bunch of other goodies, go over to patreon.com/stillloadingpod and check out everything it has to offer. On this episode of Still Loading, I am the great Cackleta's most best pupil who is named Fawful. I am here laughing at you.
A+. It's a key.
I
Thank
love
you.
Fawful.
Love it.
I have chortles.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of the Still Loading podcast. I'm your host, Josh Koval. On today's episode, it is episode 3 of Mario Month 2025, and we are continuing our look through the Mario RPG games, or games in which RPG games in which Mario is the star of. And we are covering this week the first of the Mario and Luigi games, the very first one, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. And joining me to go on our own saga as we talk about this superstar of a game are actually a first-time guest of the show and a returning guest. A returning guest from the Dragon Quest episode last year is Andre from Fine Time. Andre, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me for this. I love Superstar Saga, so I'm glad to be talking about it with you today.
Happy to have you back on the show. Always looking for excuses to have people on the show who I don't have on enough. So I'm happy to have you back on. And our first time guest from the SuperPod Saga podcast. Could you guess why I chose this person? It's Aaron. Aaron, how are you doing today?
Hello, I'm doing good. I've slammed half of a 5-hour energy, made some iced coffee, so I'm ready to rip.
Oh, yeah. I drank a whole coffee before we recorded, and a little behind the scenes, this is like 10:30 at night for me. So this is going to be, we might be a little punchy this evening. It's going to be a good time. I'm excited.
Well, it's 7:30 p.m. over here on the Best Coast, and I am having a Sprite lemonade, and that'll keep me good.
I would have had
delicious.
I did have before the coffee just to keep me up a little bit. You ever heard of Cheerwine?
I've heard of it. I've heard of it.
Cheerwine is a soda that's usually, or pop if you're from the Midwest.
Soda out here, baby.
No, I call it soda.
Yeah, everyone calls it soda. That's right. It's soda from the South. Like usually you can get it in like North Carolina, South Carolina, like that area of the country, and it's kind of like a Dr. Pepper, like a different. It tastes like Dr. Pepper. It reminds you of Dr. Pepper, but it's not. Like it's a different, like I guess, base, like fruit base. Because I think Dr. Pepper is like plum or something like that. And
whoa,
I think that's the base of Dr. Pepper from what I remember hearing.
Yeah, it's like plum, or I guess prunes are plums, right? That are dried.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that is the basis for it. Yeah.
So anyone who ever drank Cheerwine, shout out to Cheerwine. It's pretty good. But yeah, so I my parents were down in North Carolina over in December, and they always buy a shitload of Cheerwine. And they gave us a 12-pack of it. So my wife and I have been working our way through it. Anyway, that has nothing to do with Mario and Luigi or Superstars or Sagas.
Well, we're always looking to eat and drink stuff on the air on Fine Time. Maybe we should all try some Cheerwine. That sounds like a nice group activity.
Cheerwine on Fine Time.
Another cool fun fact. I'm from Iowa, where people typically refer to it as pop. I kind of like conditioned myself into always calling it soda. My wife gives me shit all the time because I call it soda and not pop, even though we're in Iowa. But
yeah. So you're the weird one out for saying soda. Interesting.
Yeah, it's wild, man.
It's
better than
I'm too
over
good
here
for the
in
state.
better over here in the Philadelphia. I'm from the Philly area, and they always like one of the jokes is that we don't say water, we say wooder.
You sure do.
I do say water, but
Philadelphians.
but it's I still remember in high school there was I was in study hall and there was a girl who kept saying like she asked where the water fountain was, and my friend Adam was being such a dick. He's like, "What are you talking about?" And she goes, "The water fountain." And he's like, "I don't know what you're saying. You know the water fountain that you drink out of." He's like, "Oh, you mean the water fountain?" And she pretty much slapped him.
Good.
It's well deserved, but worth it.
It was a fun little troll. But anyway,
fun.
yes, we are here to talk about Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. And as we always do, as we are wont to do, as my friends over at the Retro Hangover podcast would say, we're going to talk about our personal experiences with this game. And as I've done in a lot of these episodes, if I don't have a lot to say, I go first because I don't want that to be the final say. Because I never played this game before this episode. I had heard about it.
Damn.
No, I missed out on a lot of handheld experiences growing up, and in fact, looking at the list for all the Mario games for this month, I never played any of them with the exception of Super Mario RPG prior to this month. Prior to playing him for this month,
Wow,
I never
dude.
played
Wow.
Paper Mario. I never played Superstar Saga, Thousand Year Door, or Partners in Time. Those are all new experiences to me. So I played it for this episode. I actually bought a copy of Superstar Saga complete in box years ago.
Holy shit.
Back when I was hunting a little bit more. I only spent like $60 on it, and now I'm afraid to see what it's worth now. But I still have a copy. It's got all its inserts and everything. I'm looking at the pretty box right now. So I got Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga for the GBA, and that is what I played it on. I have my Game Boy Advance SP, and I was playing it on that. And it was a fun experience. A little spoiler alert. I enjoyed my time with this, though I have some issues with the game, but we'll get into all that. So we're gonna throw it over to our first time guest, Aaron.
Ooh.
Aaron, what's your personal experiences with Superstar Saga?
Yeah, so over here in I grew up in the very rural I hate that word, rural.
It's a hard word to say. I'm not even saying that to be nice. Rural is like you just sound weird saying it.
It's
rural.
Tough. It's a tough one.
Rural.
Rural.
Yeah, the town I grew up in was small. The neighboring towns were also small. I think my graduating class was like 50 or less, probably less than 50. So in our area, we didn't have very many places to go and buy video games. So we usually either rented them from the gas station or from the grocery store, or we drove like 30 minutes to a Walmart or something. But there was this one in the town neighboring the one I grew up in. There was a store called Pomida. It's like a grocery store, but they had like a bunch of other stuff they sold there as well, and a lot of that being video games. They actually had back in the good old GBA days, they had the Metabots games, which I bought from there. Also, they had they had Golden Sun there, and a few other games. But they also had Superstar Saga, and that's where I got the game. Was from that grocery store. And my former co-host Tommy and I, Superstar Saga is one of the first games we really like bonded over, because I forget if it was I who lent the game to him or if it was the other way around, but we both played the game. We both loved it. We talked about it all the time at school. We would talk about like what we were doing in our playthroughs and stuff. But yeah, that's why we eventually named our podcast after it pretty much. And yeah, it's awesome.
It's funny because when I decided on the docket for this year's Mario month, and I saw that I was like, you know what, I'm going to do all the Mario RPG games, and I saw Superstar Saga come up. You guys were the first one on, literally just because of the name of the show. So I'm not surprised by that. But the other guest joining us, Andre. I just, I wanted to have you back on the show in general. So I just sent you a list of what I'm covering, and you said you're a fan of this. So why don't you elaborate a little bit further? How did you first get into Superstar Saga?
I had anticipated it coming out. Well, it just it came along at an interesting time in my life because I grew up in San Diego, born and raised. I moved here to Nevada in the summer of 2003. So maybe like I don't know, 3 to 6 months before Superstar Saga came out. And like I was just getting settled. You know how it is when you move somewhere new, and I don't know if you ever move to another state, guys, but it's just, it's different, right? And it's just
Mm-hmm.
I have a job, I'm getting settled, I'm starting to get into a groove, and just, I'm having a little bit of money, I can start buying some new games again. And Superstar Saga.
I
That's
see
a
how it
bad
is.
insult. More like Stupid Star Saga. It came along, and I was just like, I had my GBA. I don't know if SP was out, but sorry to say, guys, I have never liked the Game Boy Advance SP. I hate the way it
Wild.
feels in the hands. I can't take that little square thing. Sorry. So I just stuck with the original one with no backlight.
Mm-hmm.
So in my shitty little studio apartment under a lamp, I was playing Superstar Saga every night after work, and I just loved it because here's the thing. I never liked a Mario RPG before this. I severely dislike Super Mario RPG. I don't like Paper Mario that. I think it's okay, but it's just way too long. It just didn't do it for me. I find those games so glacial and just
Mm-hmm.
really slow in a way that I do not care for. So Superstar Saga, I felt like I was taking a bit of a chance. I'm like, okay, third time's a charm, right? Maybe this time I love the idea of Mario and RPG. Maybe this could be the one for me. And it was the one for me. It's so snappy. It's so fast. It's genuinely funny. And
Mm-hmm.
just a great game all around. And so yeah, I played it when it came out, and I replayed it last month for the purposes of this podcast via Nintendo Switch Online.
It's funny that you said you didn't like Super Mario RPG because the director of Super Mario RPG directed this game as well.
That's so interesting.
And
I mean, obviously it's a completely different, I mean, yeah, they're
yeah,
both RPGs, but this, Mario Luigi has a completely different thing to it. So that is
Oh yeah.
interesting though. I did not know that.
I didn't even
well,
know when I first started playing Superstar Saga. I don't know how old I was. We were in like middle school, I believe, but I didn't even know back then that Paper Mario or even Super Mario RPG even existed. Like this was my first Mario RPG.
okay.
Mhm.
Okay. And actually, real quick, I am looking at some of the stuff that the director of this game, which is Yoshihiko Maekawa, he worked on all the other Mario and Luigi games. He did Bowser's Inside Story. He did Dream Team. It doesn't look like he did Partners in Time, but the only
Huh.
games he directed: Super Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, and in between those two, a game called Tomato Adventure, which I have
Oh,
never heard.
I've heard of that.
that game's awesome. Yeah, it was Japan only, I think, but there is a
It
fan
sounds it.
translation.
Yeah.
And then he also is listed according to Wikipedia, which I know you normally don't go after, but I sometimes it's just an easy reference. He's credited as additional crew for Brothership, and he's also a producer on Brothership, the newest Mario and Luigi game, and also Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. He was a translator
Oh,
apparently,
wow.
and
Interesting.
he's a battle director for Parasite Eve.
Whoa,
Okay. I can see that.
that's cool.
I
This
can see
guy's
that.
this guy's been around, and it's funny. Another connection to Super Mario RPG is the composer Yoko Shimomura,
Of
the
course.
legendary, iconic Yoko Shimomura, who did the
Mhm.
soundtrack for both of these games.
Big round of applause.
Yeah.
I love.
Yoko's the best, man. She's
Did,
Yep.
she's so goddamn good.
did you see her acceptance speech at the Dice Awards?
I did not.
I think I might have mentioned this in the Super Mario RPG episode. I don't know. I recorded that over like 2 months ago at this point, or a month ago. So I don't remember exactly everything I said, but if you ever get a chance to look up the video of it, it's she's adorable. Like she just like I've never seen someone have so much genuine joy for what they do. It's so like it was palpable on the stage. Like she was just so like I can't even describe it. Like I was just so endeared to her from her acceptance speech, and it just made like I already loved her music, but just seeing how much she cares about the medium that she's working in just made me love her even more.
I feel like she really enjoys and like this is going to be a weird statement, but like respects her own work to the point where like she goes back and redoes it if there's a remake. She redid her music for Super
Yeah.
Mario RPG. She redid her music for Live A Live, the HD 2D version, like a couple years ago. She redid her music for that because she did the soundtrack for that. And also, what was it for something else recently too? Oh, I guess the Superstar Saga, yeah, on 3DS, right? Yeah, she redid her music for that too. She like a lot of people don't do that, and I don't blame them. They're doing whatever. They move out, someone else could remix it, but she likes to redo her own music, which I think is fascinating because a lot of people don't do that.
She is just like, she's incredible, man. And also, it's so okay. So I guess I shouldn't be that surprised because, the time we're recording this, my backlog month poll just ended. So anyone who seen some of the social media posts about it and whatnot, the games I'm covering on backlog month this year, all the way over and all the way up in October, are Castlevania, Golden Sun, which you mentioned, Aaron. So I was like, but that's ironic, or that's coincidental. But then looking at all these credits, I'm also covering Parasite Eve, and I'm also covering Live Alive. Like it's just like everything is just all lighting up. It's kind of wild that it all worked out that way.
It's all lining up Yoko.
All Yoko,
things
baby.
coming up Yoko.
Yeah, everything's coming. It's coming up Yoko.
She also composed for the Luminous Arc series. That's really, and Xenoblade, dude.
Yeah, Xenoblade was basically her and Mitsuda, basically the two of them going off on Xenoblade. Basically, yeah, it's just you can hear it too. Final Fantasy 15 actually is one of my favorite soundtracks of hers. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about that game, but I think the music in that game is A+.
I don't have it's been a while since I've played it, but I don't have as big of an issue with it as other people do from what I remember, but I also played it a while ago.
Yeah.
That's a cool thing about video game music is like even with a very very mid game like say Bomberman Hero, the soundtrack just stomps, like it redeems the hell out of that game. Like sometimes you just want to boot it up just to hear the main menu theme or the game over theme and stuff like that.
It's so true, man. It's funny. It's not technically a game, but so for Christmas, my cousin got me a little. I'm actually looking at it right now. It's just literally listed as retro video game console, and it's one of those like 201 like type of like plug and plays. Well, this plug and play comes with its own little LCD screen that they put in the shape of like a CRT. Like it's a tiny little like 2.5-inch like CRT TV, but it's not actually CRT. It's a flat screen. It's all digital. But and then the emulator, I'm pretty sure, is built into the back of the system. And they have a little fake like NES attached to the cord, so it's really cute. But the reason I say that is the menu screen for it has some of the best fucking Mega Man clone music I've ever heard in my life.
Wow.
It sounds like a missing Mega Man soundtrack. Now, to be fair, I don't know Mega Man well enough. Maybe they just fucking took a Mega Man track and didn't credit them. I wouldn't put it past it. So I'd have to see more later. But anyway, we should get into this game in earnest now. Now that we've talked about our personal experiences, we are going to start off with normally I don't start off with this, but I think something I want to highlight with this, because there's a lot of one of the points that I wanted to bring up about this game in general. We're going to start off with story and writing, but this kind of also will eventually segue into gameplay as well. Something I've noticed playing through these Mario RPG games is the progression of how they write them, where if you look at like Super Mario RPG, you can see flavors of what Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga would become in terms of the writing, like some of the jokes in there and whatnot. It's not there. It's not nearly as slapstick. It's not nearly as goofy. It's not nearly as funny, but you can see the roots of it starting, like the seed right there was forming. And then you go to Paper Mario and you see more of it. Like that game is a lot funnier than Super Mario RPG. Different, kind of similar-ish in terms of gameplay, but they definitely like up their writing a little bit. And then with Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, it's like they just blew it off the door. They just blew the doors off.
Absolutely.
Like everything of like the story is nothing to write home about. It's just very simply Princess Peach gets her voice stolen by this villain called the Great Cackletta. And Cackletta wants to steal her voice, as well as what is it? The Bean Star? Is that what it is?
Bean Star. Yep.
And by her voice singing to the Beanstar, like Cackletta will gain like ultimate power or some shit. I honestly already forget.
She gets a wish. Like she gets well, I guess her wish would be to get ultimate power or something. But yeah, she gets a wish if she awakens it.
Okay. And so you have to go stop her, get Princess Peach's voice back. And the kind of like the little twist in a great way, like it fits perfectly in with the writing, and it, I won't spoil the twist just yet. We'll get to that. But what I really just want to talk about, because while the story isn't anything to talk about, I think the writing is, and I think this is very well written. The jokes are great. I have a little fun fact I'm going to share in a minute, but I want to hear from both of you first. Andre, I'll start off with you. Just what do you like or dislike about the writing and the story of this game?
I love the writing in this game. It's so effortlessly funny because it's not just the dialogue. Like it's like you said, it's all the slapstick stuff too. Just them falling over, or just like Luigi says something stupid and Mario hammers him, or just all that shit is so snappy and so goofy and so funny in a way that just like it's like I said. I never liked a Mario RPG before this, Super Mario RPG or Paper Mario, especially Paper Mario though, and other Paper Mario games, including Thousand Year Door and like Super Paper Mario. I've tried a bunch of them. That humor just doesn't hit with me. I honestly, it's so in love with itself in a way that I just can't stand it. I know I'm probably making everyone mad right now. I'm sorry. I just never that kind of humor just never hit with me. Superstar Saga works because it's like I said, it's the slapstick plus it's like genuinely funny dialogue that is just like it's flying by. It's the pace of the game that really helps. It's like I said before, Paper Mario's glacial to me. This is just snappy and fun. The game's over in 20 hours. Even if you take your time, it's just and that humor, that like push forward kind of pace of it is just great. So yeah, I think the writing in this game is pretty top notch.
Well, and like to kind of piggyback off what you're saying there real quick before I throw it over to Aaron, you're not wrong with Paper Mario's pace. Like I enjoyed Paper Mario and Mario RPG, definitely Mario RPG a lot more than you, but like Paper Mario, like when I was speaking with Tactic and Nerd Bomber, my guests for the Paper Mario episode, both of them were worried when they first started playing because they had never played it before, and they were like, "This beginning is slow as hell." Like they were worried that it was going to like be a bad game because of how slow it was. And I'm with them, like especially like that intro chapter of Paper Mario is slow as fuck. Like it takes forever to get going. Once it gets going, I enjoy it quite a bit, and it does overstay its welcome a little bit. But you're not wrong with that. And to bring it back to Superstar Saga, it's so fast paced. I mean, probably because of the nature of being a handheld game, they brevity is the soul of wit, or whatever that expression is. Like they have to be brief. They have to be punchy and snappy, because you're only going to be able to play it like if it's handheld, they have to expect that the players can only maybe get a 30 to 40 minute session in, because they're traveling somewhere. And the dialogue also reminds me, like the whole vibe of it reminds me of Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Like that, very like even the quote that I had for the great Cackletta in the beginning, or it was actually, sorry, not the great Cackletta, it was what's their nuts, Fawful. Like the way that they write it is that I am the great Cackletta's most best pupil, who's named Fawful, meaning that there is another most best pupil, just a different name though. Like that alone, like there's so much to break down in that one little sentence.
Fawful's dialogue in general is kind of just his verb choices. It's just so insane. Good. It's wild.
One more quote from Fawful before I throw it over to you, Aaron. Princess Peach's sweet voice will soon be the bread that makes the sandwich of Cackletta's desires. Like genuinely funny jokes. Funny. But Aaron, throwing it over to you, your thoughts on the dialogue on this and story and whatnot.
Yeah, just like you both have said, dude, the writing is really, really good. The way it paces itself from, and like it keeps going from like, oh hey, go get Peach's voice back. Oh hey, get the pieces of the Beanstar back together, and then it's like, oh hey, go stop go stop the Cackletta fusion monster, and it
Bowletta. Bowletta.
Owletta, there we go.
Years and years before Bowsette.
Yep, yeah.
Yeah, the game just everything flows together so smoothly. Like you never feel like you're being dragged down with walls and walls of text. It's always like blah 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 blah. Hey, what's Green Mario doing here? Blah blah blah. Smacked with hammer, and then boom, you're off to the next area, and you're just doing whatever and finding beans everywhere and all that. Yeah, dude, it's
Finding beans.
Lots of beans.
I love the Bean Cafe. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. But yeah,
you know what else I like about the dialogue is the way it's presented with like in the text boxes. Sometimes the text is huge, right? Sometimes when Peach has like the bad voice, it's like coming out of the dialogue box and like making bombs, exploding, right? Like all this sort of inventive, fun stuff with like the text is good.
And Cackletta has one of the most like recognizable, like iconic villain. I made a tweet about this or a bleed
Skeet.
I just call it a post because I refuse to call it a skeet.
I'm calling it a skeet. A skeet one time. I mean a skeet about the most iconic villain laughs with Kefka. I forget the other one.
Blue Sky. Yeah. Sorry. Go on.
Yeah, Cackletta's laugh is so good. Like I don't know how they pulled it off the GBA not sounding like shit, but yeah, it's so good.
That is true. I never thought about that. All the dialogue, like not dialogue, but all the clips like of, the fake gibberish, the Italian gibberish or like her laugh or whatever, they're all very clear. GBA is known for like that muffled sound, right? But this game doesn't seem to suffer from that.
Yeah, like if you go get Final Fantasy VI for the GBA, the sound is just like Andre would say, it's wet butt. But
yeah, it's wet butt.
and then if you go listen to Kefka laugh in the GBA version of Final Fantasy VI, it sounds pretty muffled, like he's got a hand over his mouth and he's like but with Cackletta in Superstar Saga, dude, it's so clear, and yeah, it sounds great.
The I totally forgot about the gibberish, the Italian gibberish. That it is so fucking funny. I love that so much. It's so silly.
Oh, and how they pantomime everything out when they're talking to. They're doing stuff with their hands, and like Luigi will jump in the air and do like a Prince Peasley pose and stuff like that.
Well, and Prince Peasley. You mentioned, Aaron, how like the dialogue, the text boxes will increase. I think it was you, Aaron, with like, some of them will be really large, others will be really small. That type of thing started with Paper Mario, where they would use text effects to basically show mood or show tone. And so instead of having voice acting, they would just do text effects, so that like, if this person's like loud, then obviously it'll be big text with exclamation points. If it's like an old frail person, maybe the text will be a little wavy and a little bit like kind of scratchety type of thing. So they will use that to show vocal tone, which is a really smart way to do it. Like I know I'm not saying they were the first game to ever do it, but just seeing the evolution of how Mario RPG games have gone through, it's like this is just the next logical step. Now, real quick on the humor in this game. Humor was a major focal point in the development, and shout out to the localization team, man. Like, holy shit, what a great localization.
Knocked it out of the park.
So I'm gonna read. Nintendo really wanted to promote the humor of this game, and one of the wildest things I think I had no idea about this. I'm assuming you guys saw my notes about this, right?
Yes, but go ahead. Yep.
I did not know about this, and this is one of the most baffling things I think I've ever seen, was that they decided to hold a joke contest, like a knock-knock joke contest, in order to promote the game.
Jesus Christ.
And so they promote the game and they hold a knock-knock joke contest, but who's going to be the judge? Who are they going to get to judge what ended up being 1,300 entries, more than 1,300 entries in a knock-knock joke contest? Well, none other than comedian Kathy Griffin. And
Jesus Christ.
And listen, I don't necessarily have anything against Kathy Griffin. I can't even say I've listened to any of her or like seen any of her stand up or whatnot, but it's just weird to me that they just like it. it feels like a random pick. Like if you chose a comedian, I would go with Robin Williams at the time. He was known to be in love with video games, i.e. he named his daughter Zelda. Why wouldn't you have that very obvious connection? But like, Kathy, I don't know, it'd be the same thing if it was like you get Dave Attell to do it. Like that's like, okay,
it made sense. I feel like it made sense for 2003 because I remember hearing about this. I'm like, oh sure, yeah, Kathy Griffin, whatever. It made a lot more sense at the time. If we think about it now, it's like kind of like, okay, that is weird. I'm not saying it was like totally normal at the time, but again, it made a little more sense for 2003,
okay.
I believe.
See, I was in 2003. How old would I have been? I would have been like 14. So I wouldn't have even really been like cognizant of the comedy scene or like what Kathy Griffin was doing.
That's not Adam Sandler. Who is
that? That's one thing I've had to come to grips with, like doing shows with people younger than me, is that I realized I played a lot of these games as an adult, like Superstar Saga. I was 21 years old. I was a grown ass man. Y'all are playing it in middle school and shit, and like,
but I'm does just... help bring context for
yeah, sure does.
Like, that is very important for like, it's the same thing. Like it's when like, when you see people younger than you playing games that you grew up with first time and seeing their perspectives of it, like, what is it like, when I had some like we had family over like a year or two ago, and there was some like 13 or 14-year-old kids that showed up. I had just met them and I showed them my NES and Duck Hunt, and they thought it was really cool just seeing like that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I was not expecting was, because none of them are used to CRTs, the static that, the high pitch, like if you can still hear it, CRTs have a really high pitched like tone that you can hear when the TV's on. And I remember the one kid was like, "This is hurting my ears."
They're not used to it.
Like I wasn't even like mad at it. I was like, "Okay, yeah, man, we'll turn it off. No worries." It was just wild to hear about. Now, the winning knock knock joke, I was able to find what it was, and I don't know if I believe that she looked through all 1,300 entries. Now here's why. The supposedly the contest, the knock knock joke contest, launched on November 17th, 2003. The winning joke was posted on November 18th, 2003. There is no goddamn way that
there's no
even
way.
If she had she probably has the capability. I'm not even just probably. She has the capability to read 1,300 knock knock jokes in a day. Like they don't take that long. But I don't think anyone would have the mental fortitude to read 1,300 knock knock jokes from goddamn 14-year-olds all day long.
It'd take a lot of Xanax, dude.
Did Xanax exist back then? It probably did. Yeah. I think about that stuff. I feel like this is just a celebrity. Well, Nintendo in the early 2000s really liked weird celebrity like stunt. I don't know if stunts is the right word, but they got some weird stuff. Like the Kathy Griffin thing, again, it made sense because Nintendo just did weird shit at that time because they didn't really know what to do with GameCube. They're just like, nobody wants to buy this. And what do? A Game Boy Advance? I guess that's selling, but like we need more celebrities, I guess. So here they are.
Well, what is it? I remember seeing like, publicity images of like Paris Hilton holding a GameCube and shit like that.
I think I've seen that too.
And it's kind of like Paris Hilton, like, hey, maybe she's a gamer and she doesn't talk about it, but like her brand isn't really that. So it's like a weird celebrity endorsement.
Yeah, but they like stuff like that. There's also that famous picture of Jason Alexander, like looking all confused.
That's what I was thinking of. Yeah,
at a GameCube event or something. Yeah. And he's just like, "What the fuck am I doing here?" Yeah, he just has that look. So
I'm getting paid. I guess I'm here. So the winning knock knock joke that Kathy Griffin picked, allegedly picked. I don't know. Though, and I actually have a quote from her as to why she picked it. So first I'll read the knock knock joke and then her quote. The knock knock joke is, "Knock knock, who's there? Pencil. Pencil who? Your pencil fall down if you don't wear a belt."
That's so fucking stupid.
I read it and I literally sat there for like 10 minutes. I'm like, I don't fucking get it. I don't get the knock knock joke. Like it's like, listen, I like anti jokes where you set something up and it's
Oh, I
just
miss
so
those.
like almost offensively unfunny that it circles back and becomes
Yeah,
funny.
Yep.
exactly.
But this just doesn't. This is like so offensively neutral to me. I just don't understand
Offensively neutral.
But I think you're right. I think that's why it's like she couldn't have, like, there had to have been a better one than this, right? There has to be.
And so, what her quote as to why she chose it, and this is why I think she's got to be fucking with us too. I think like even her picking this has to be a joke because the quote is, "I feel inspired by this joke." Not only to wear pants with an elastic waist, but to really listen to others about my personal style.
Jesus
Also, like the
Christ.
notion that Pencil is a character in the joke, almost like a person with a funny name. When I think of naming my first child Pencil, I'm laughing already. That's the idea. Get it? Congratulations.
Come on,
End
Kathy.
quote. Kathy Griffin.
She was fucking with us the whole time.
You just know she was like
that feels like she knows how stupid it was. It's just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna pick the worst one. Maybe that's the joke. She picked the worst possible one and then just the joke is her trying to justify it. And that I could totally picture her doing that. That is something a comedian would do.
that
just
seems
to fuck
pretty
with people.
2003.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick the shittiest joke, and I'm going to like really pump it up with this stupid story. Oh, here's why I picked this. I'm gonna name my kid Pencil. It's like, what? Okay, yeah.
Better if she was insanely hungover and she was like, "Fuck, I have to look over 1,300 jokes," and she picked the
just
first
looked at
one.
the fifth one.
She was like, "All right, that's it," and then just throws up into a bucket.
It's like, here it is.
The winner of this, if the winner who was selected won a Game Boy Advance SP along with a copy of Superstar Saga. I really wish I knew who won this competition. I'm sure there's a way to find out, but like I didn't. Obviously, by the time we scheduled this and by the time I researched this, I was half tempted to like, if I can look up this person and get them on the show with us, it would be like the best day of my life.
That'd be incredible.
Awesome. I wonder if they met Kathy Griffin in person.
Well, no, I wouldn't. Yeah, did they meet Kathy Griffin? Like, I would love to. I would love to.
There's no way. There's no way. They got an email from Kathy Griffin. They got an email.
What's up, kid? Your joke was a piece of shit.
She comes up on the Kathy Griffin herself comes on the show. She's like taking a long drag off a cigarette. Okay, I guess I'll go on this video game podcast. I don't know what the fuck she sounds
That's
like.
not what she sounds like at all. Not
I
even
like
close.
I like Aaron's version better.
Your version of her is like a woman who smoked for 70 years.
Yep. That's what I assumed when I think
or
of
like
her.
that character from SpongeBob who wants to buy chocolate.
Oh yeah, chocolate.
I remember chocolate.
Can I make a confession? I have never ever seen a single second of SpongeBob SquarePants. Not a single time.
Chocolate.
I've never seen it.
If you like the sense of humor in
Andre?
Not Partners in Time, in Superstar Saga, you might like some early SpongeBob stuff. There's some legitimately like funny jokes in early SpongeBob. They're like I'm not even going to throw a bunch of quotes at you because then that means nothing to you. But you might like it. I don't know if you will. You might hate it. You might like it. But early SpongeBob actually has some pretty decent jokes.
Okay, yeah. I have nothing against it. I just happen to have never seen it for some reason.
Yeah, you were like 21 when this shit came out, so I
was old.
It would have been like. Yeah, you would have had no reason to watch it when it first came out.
Exactly.
Baby garbage.
I'm gonna watch ESPN. I'm a grown adult, right?
You're filing your taxes.
Dude, I didn't know how to do my fucking taxes when I came out here. I didn't know shit.
I still don't know how to do my taxes.
Yeah, it's tough, dude.
Oh my goodness. But all right. Any final thoughts on the story and writing before we move on to the next section?
I think, I don't know if this qualifies under writing, but it's just, I talked a little bit about pace. And Aaron, you joined me last year for On Fine Time to talk about Grandia 2.
Oh yeah.
And one of the reasons why we love that game is because of its pace. It's a 35-hour RPG that a lot of companies should make like 70 hours. You know what I mean? Like, but because
hell yeah,
Grandia 2 really not, I don't even want to say condenses it down, because it doesn't feel like you're missing anything. It just feels like it trims all the fat. That's what's so good about Mario Superstar Saga's writing, is that you are just, the pacing and sequencing of it are also snappy, onto the next, as you guys said. It just keeps it moving in a way that I really appreciate in RPGs. Now, don't get me wrong. I love my 100-hour RPGs. I love Dragon Quest 11. I love Octopath Traveler 2, right? I love long games that are so cool. It's just great to like be able to play a game like this with that snappy writing and like pace to it. It's just refreshing, and I think that's what Mario, I guess when we talk about gameplay some more, that's what Mario RPGs need, because I feel like if they're any longer, that kind of battle system gets old, I think. So yeah, I really like that this game is short.
That dialogue too, it's just in a lot of RPGs, I mean, maybe it's just me, but I tend to get kind of bored when you get to like talk to an NPC or whatever, and they have just walls and walls of text, and you get to your next objective or whatever, and it's just walls and walls of text, and it's just like, oh, go to the next castle and break into the basement and steal some cheer wine from the neighbors and all this other garbage. But in Superstar Saga, it's just like you said, it's breakneck, because they're going to fucking Chateau de la Chucklehuck or whatever, Chateau Chucklehuck, and it's just
I always call it
Chateau
Chucklefuck.
Chucklehuck. Yeah, and then they're like, oh, get the Chucklehuck. What is it? Chocola Supreme? What is that?
Something like that.
Chocola Supreme.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just like, go here, go get that, and we'll talk in a minute. And you go there, and then any dialogue you get, it's just like brief and punchy. It's like, no, it's my Chocola Cola. Get out of here. You fight, and then it's just everything is just so quick, and you're not ever, what's the word I'm looking for? Like inundated with just tons and tons of dialogue. It's just so quick and snappy, and
Well, it's like Josh said, the
funny.
premise is so simple. It's like Princess Peach is kidnapped. They stole her voice. Go get her or whatever. Like that's really all you need to have an adventure, and the game really plays off of that. So,
yeah,
and I think like it just. The reason I started off with the writing and the story of this, because normally I don't bother doing that, like normally that's always something at the end, but generally these games aren't. Mario games aren't known for the story in general, so normally it's an afterthought, and it's kind of the case with this. But why I really wanted to start off with this was that the writing really set the tone and the aesthetic, like more than any other thing that I've seen. Like a lot of times, gameplay usually sets the aesthetic, or the story will, but the writing, specifically the writing, set the tone for the entire aesthetic of the game, and like. Even in the combat, like the combat's very slapstick. Exploration is very slapstick. You have to, when you get later on in the game, when you get the hammers and Luigi can bop Mario in the head to make him small, or Mario will bop Luigi in the head and make him go underground, and it's stuff like that where it's small, but it works out really well, because the writing of this just kind of sets the tone for all of this. And there's just so many funny lines of dialogue and funny jokes. Like I can't remember any of them. I can't remember the jokes, but when you do get to the Chocola Reserve and you have to, you meet the guy, because the whole premise is that he has to tell joke to age this cola. Almost like it's an alcohol, like it's a beer that you put in a cask, or something that you age like a fine wine or something like that.
Yeah, every joke you tell it makes
but it's cola. And he has to tell it jokes for like 30 years or some shit like that. Like it's a really funny premise, and
that is funny.
All the jokes are all really bad knock jokes.
And maybe that's why they had the contest. It's like, well, we're gonna do this in the game, so the localization team was like, hey, this will be good for a weird celebrity stunt.
Do nothing with the jokes, and they did.
It's so fucking funny, man. I love it. I love how silly it is. And yeah, we'll use that to transition into the gameplay. Like that set the tone for the gameplay. I already mentioned before about the different mechanics of how like the slapstick nature applies itself both in tone to the writing, but also to the exploration mechanics. More apparent in the exploration mechanics, but you also see it in some of the battle stuff. and I guess as a really quick overview, without giving my thoughts on it, just for the listeners to explain what the battle system is like. It's similar to other Mario RPG games where there's a lot of timed hits, but they do some interesting things with this. Specifically, the fact that Mario and Luigi are basically assigned different buttons to do different things. So Mario always all of Mario's actions in battle are confirmed with the A button, and all of Luigi's actions are confirmed with the B button. Um, and you also use that for different timed things. So if you're trying to time your attack or use a timed event to dodge an attack or block an enemy, it's the same thing. The B button will allow Luigi to jump or hit an enemy with a hammer before it gets to him, or and vice versa. It will allow Luigi to get the extra damage when he bounces on top. So you have to be aware of like which enemy is attacking which brother, and then on top of that, when you are attacking, which brother you're using and that kind of stuff. So I thought that was a really interesting thing, just seeing how like this mechanic I have some thoughts on, and I normally I would be diving right into this, but I always go first, and I'm tired of doing that. So I want to throw it actually over to you, Andre. Just some thoughts on the battle system, and uh likewise, real quick before, and we'll get into exploration in a second, you can feel free to give your thoughts on both the battle and the exploration. But just for the listeners, because I forgot to talk about the exploration, there's similar mechanics in the exploration where depending on which brother is leading, it's not A for Mario and B for Luigi. You can swap which brother is kind of you are controlling with the D-pad. But whichever one is in front, you hit A to jump or hammer or whatever ability you have, and then you hit B for whichever one is in the back, and you get the jump, you get the hammer, you also get like powers. Luigi gets thunder, Mario gets fire, and depending on which order you are and how you do things, Luigi, you can get an extra high jump if Luigi is in front and Mario's in the back, or no, it's an extra high jump if Mario's in front and Luigi's in the back, and then if Mario's in the back and Luigi's in the front, you get this like hover spin move that lets you traverse across different areas. So there's a lot of different mechanics that this game throws at you, both in battle and in traversal and exploration, that I find really interesting. But instead of me just going into it, I'll throw it over to you, Andre. Your thoughts on it? Because I didn't even share all the different mechanics, so just talk about whatever strikes your fancy with this.
Yeah, I think I want to start with the battle system because it is incredible. Like I said, I've already said I never liked Mario RPG, and especially Paper Mario. It's like I just said, if the game goes on too long, that shit gets really boring. Paper Mario, man. Even before I was tired of playing the game, I just think the pace of battle in that game is not good. You'd have the hammer or whatever, right? Pull back on the control stick. Okay, let it go. Now I got to go back in position. It is so slow to me. And I don't usually say that about RPGs because you're there to spend a long time. So I don't ever really feel that way about RPGs, but just Paper Mario is just too much for me. Superstar Saga, it is so fast. You just jump in there with that transition. By the way, I don't know when else I'm going to say this. Is that transition to battle, that star, is that 3D? Is that like actually polygons, or is that like...
I don't know. It's cool. I just don't know. It
looks like it. Yeah, it looks like it is, right? It just looks like a very simple like 3D effect. Anyway, and you're in there, you're dancing, baby. And it's just like, it's party time. Hit A again, bam, boom. Oh, it's dead. And then you get to hear one of the best like fanfare songs of all time. It is so snappy and fast.
Gosh.
You are just... You're in and you're out of these battles so quick. Even if they're not quick, they keep you so engaged with the number of ways enemies attack you. Oh, this time you got to use the hammer. This time you got to jump at this. And like all the different timings, they're so hard to learn. I love that this game is difficult, by the way. It's not easy.
No.
Because you really got to learn those timings. It's not bullshit. So if you don't, you're going to die, and you're going to die fast. And I love that about the game, and the fact that there's so many, like every single enemy has a different way of and different timing. There's no two that are alike. Just excellent stuff. It keeps you engaged the whole time in the game, which is, again, not a long game, like 20 hours if you're taking your time. And I love that about it. As far as exploration goes, yeah, that's something I did not like about Super Mario RPG. Like, it wasn't really the isometric perspective. It's just that I thought like just running around wasn't that exciting at all. Among other things I don't like about it, but that's like one of the things. Super Mario RPG, Superstar Saga keeps it a lot more fresh for me with the way you got a high jump on this and spin attack across that and use your fire attack. By the way, I love like the clips when they go to the thunder fire. I love the Mario one. Fire. I love it. But yeah, I can't get enough of that stuff in this game, and that's what it excels at. And that's why, like, if I'm being real, I think it is my favorite Mario RPG in that respect. It's better than Partners in Time. I think it's better than yeah, I mean, look, I haven't played every single one. It's better than Dream Team. I really do think, like, as far if I'm going to tell someone to play a Mario RPG, it's this one because of the stuff I just said. Exploration, traversal, level design in that regard, and the battle system just boom, boom, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, is just the best. Sorry to get disgusting at the end, but yeah, that's how I feel.
No worries at all. Aaron, I'm going to throw it over to you as well. What are your thoughts on everything?
All right, I'm going to catch the ball.
Yep,
I'm going to catch the ball and immediately drop it. I fumbled.
Yeah. You have to press B to catch the ball at the right time.
The combat is so good, man, because first of all, every single interaction that you have with an enemy, it does something. Like, one thing I really hate in RPGs, especially when I'm playing through right now, Breath of Fire 3, one thing I hate is when things aren't looking good and you're really counting on hitting an enemy to kill him and end the battle, but you miss. For whatever reason, you miss. That shit sucks, man. Like, when you go to attack an enemy and you're like, fuck, I just want this battle to be over, and you miss an attack, that shit sucks. But not in Superstar Saga. Like, even if you fumble up a jump or you fumble a hammer, well, I guess, yeah, you'd hit yourself with a hammer. Anyway, yeah, you still do a little bit of damage. Even if you fuck up like a bros move, you still do a little bit of damage. So, like, you're not wasting your time in combat. Also, much like a beloved favorite of Andre and I, Grandia 2, they do a really good job of, like, they give you all the tools you need to avoid taking damage, which is without giving you just like a block or something like that. Like, the ability to just dodge an attack and not take damage is awesome. It's the I know, Andre, you hate this word, but I really love the, like, Metroidvania aspect of the exploration.
I do. Yeah, you're right. You're correct, though.
Yeah, it's anytime. How the fuck do I say this? Like, some RPGs, when they like, the combat is usually the really fun part. You know, you go in, you whoop ass, you get your rewards, and you're out. And it's like, oh, okay, well, now I have to go through many random encounters, try to find the end of this dungeon and fight the boss, and that's it. But in Superstar Saga, it's like you have these wide open areas in the world map, and then you have these dungeons that aren't like, they're not boring like usual RPGs. Like, you're running around, you're using your hammer abilities to get Mario into some shit to where he can turn on a breaker and open up some gates, or like you're using Luigi and you're like Mario's pants on fire, so he runs really fast, and then you blast through giant rocks, and it's just so much fun to explore and find beans to take to the cafe and get those cool, like, little cameo items, like the Wario's Greed Wallet or the Star Fox G Diffuser thing. Like, that shit's really cool.
Yeah.
Then you get to see Professor Egad at the cafe. That's sweet. Shout out to Professor Egad.
That blew my mind, because Luigi's Mansion wasn't that old at the time, and it's just like, what is he doing here? That's so cool.
Yeah.
You know, like that.
And yeah, the Poltergust.
That was so cool.
Yeah, the Poltergust. What, 3,000 or 5,000, something like that.
I don't even remember the numbers.
I think it's 5,000. I think I could be wrong.
That sounds right. But yeah, man, everything about this game, like, it does so much, like, new, fresh shit, but it still feels like Mario. Like, even when you're doing the bros moves and hopping and bopping around, that still feels like shit Mario would do in, like, say, Super Mario World, or like even like Super Mario Galaxy or something like that. When you do like the spin move, or you do like a hammer smash, or like, yeah, it all feels so new, but like still familiar.
Well, hammers are basically Mario lore because of Donkey Kong. So that's kind of what I thought about when I first played. I know all the children just think Donkey Kong Country nowadays, but I'm old, so I think like the original arcade trilogy. But that's what I always interpreted it as, kind of like a Donkey Kong original Mario callback, was having hammers be such a thing, and the barrels too. There's all sorts of moves where Luigi's in the barrel and Mario has to climb up it to hit a switch and stuff, and and of course there's that whole room that is like an entire Donkey Kong reference where you have to jump over the barrels getting up to the top of the thing. I could actually do a whole thing on references. I don't want to derail it, well, unless you don't mind, but
no, by all means.
Okay, yeah, because I actually wanted to talk about the references in this game because it's easy to forget, because at the time this came out, Superstar Saga in 2003, we were not a society that decided references were like an entire product. Like, we just had a whole Chip and Dale movie a couple years ago that was basically like, hey, remember this thing?
Mm-hmm.
And that was like the entire basis of the humor, which I cannot stand. And I feel like there's just been a lot of like lazy cultural rehashing of stuff for like many years now. And like when Superstar Saga did it, it was actually like fresh. It was cute and fun throwbacks. Everything from like when you have to, yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, when you have to skip rope with the Hammer Brothers, for instance, right? Or like you have like what's the town with all the toads? All the toads immigrated to.
Oh shoot! I know what you're talking about. It's like Mushroom Town or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Fungi Town.
Yeah.
And like it plays the Super Mario Brothers theme as like a town tune there, but it doesn't feel like, oh, here's a Mario 1 theme again. It actually felt kind of cool at the time. Now that's like really overplayed, right? But at the time, that was great. The Super Mario 64 castle theme at the beginning, right? That felt cool as hell because we had never heard that song in another context yet. It's like, oh, they're just playing that now. That's so cool. I mean, shit, when you get the hammers, I think one of the Hammer Brothers literally say like, doesn't he say like, now you're playing with power?
Yeah.
When he gives you the hammers,
yeah,
like there's Dr. Mario viruses at one point for enemies, right?
Yeah. And they actually had an interesting mechanic for that as well, where you had to like you could either take them out individually, or if you were able to match all of their colors, then it would take them all out at once.
Yes. And that was so, when you discover that, it's like, oh shit, it's like, that's so cool. Anyway, I guess my whole point of bringing up all this shit is just like, I love how it just Mario, it feels like Mario. It doesn't feel like a bunch of like wink, wink, callbacks and be like, hey, remember this? It just feels very authentically Mario. And in 2003, that felt great. Like I said, Professor Egad is there. It's like, oh man, he's just part of Mario lore now. And that's one big reason why I still think Superstar Saga is like tip top for me. Like, it's just, all that stuff is incredible and organic.
And all those references, like they have a purpose too. It'd be one thing if it was just like, hey, remember this? Remember that? Do you?
Yeah.
But they I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but yeah, they all the references they make have they're like own specific purposes rather than just being there for the sake of being there. Like Peach's Castle theme, duh, you're there. Fucking yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, and
go ahead.
And they do a great job of really helping to carve out Luigi as a character more, because I think like at the time, Luigi's Mansion was what really did that. Made Luigi this like scaredy cat, like goofball guy, and Superstar Saga really helps to hammer that image into him. Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, one more thing I can't go without, because I did not notice this when I played it back in the day. I noticed it on my recent playthrough. When you fill up Mario with water, there's that mechanic where Mario drinks out of the hose and Luigi hammers him or whatever, and you spit out the water. Mario has the same face as like Balloon Mario in like Super Mario World when you inflate.
I didn't even.
He has that like scrunched up face, I didn't notice that back in the day, but I definitely noticed that in this. Maybe because I made a couple Balloon Mario courses in Super Mario Maker 2 or something. I just stared at it a lot now. But yeah, I did notice that this time. So yeah, there's just all sorts of cute little things like that in this game that feel good and not just like, okay, I get it. You're referencing a thing.
Yeah.
And to kind of piggyback off something you were talking about, Andre, with the referential humor, I think one of the reasons it works in this, and it's frustrating in in what we see now, is that a lot of modern versions of this, you have to know what the reference is in order to get the joke. Versus like a good referential humor people don't need to know what the reference is to get the joke. It's a second layer, like that's when it's done well, where the joke works on its own, but then if you get the added context, then it's like extra funny, right? I gave this example back when I was doing my Still Bonding series on the movie Spectre. They do that in Spectre. Like they do a reference to a previous Bond villain, and it doesn't make any fucking sense because so for those who don't know, Spectre is like James Bond's original arch nemesis, like organization. The leader of it was a dude named Ernst Stavro Blofeld. And in the new version with Christoph Waltz, his character's name is Franz Oberhauser. And when Bond meets him, he goes, "Franz Oberhauser is dead. I am now Ernst Stavro Blofeld." And the idea of it is that he's taking his mother's last name, so it's like there's some type of connection with it. But the delivery of it, it's like this big, supposed to be this earth-shattering moment where it's like, oh fuck, now he's this guy. And it just doesn't land at all because it's a reference that unless one, it's a bad line, first off, but second, like unless you know the history of Bond, it means nothing to you. You don't care that his name's Ernst Stavro Blofeld. It doesn't make a difference. And it's the same thing with a lot of referential humor now, where if you the joke of it is the reference itself, not the joke.
Like with Family Guy, where anytime they reference Bobby McFerrin, it's like, I don't know who the fuck that is, but it was funny when he fell down the stairs with Family Guy.
I do, right? So I get it. I know exactly who that is. So like, yeah, but it's weird. You have to know who that is for that to work.
And that's not good writing, in my opinion. Like it could be, but it's not always. So it most of the time it's not. So I think it works well with this, where the referential humor, it's not tied with anything. It's not like the joke isn't the reference just adds to enhance the world. And that's why I think it works so well with this. And for myself with the gameplay, what I wanted to talk about was I really admire this game. I don't think I'm quite as high on the gameplay as both of you are. Like I like it, don't get me wrong. I don't think the Mario and Luigi mechanics of like having to jump and dodge with separate buttons, attack with separate buttons and dodge with separate buttons always works. I think that it was a really interesting idea, but I don't know if it was implemented entirely perfectly. Not saying I could have done it better, but just it didn't always work for me. With that said, I'm really happy they did it because it's a swing, and it's it was a big swing. It wasn't just a play it safe type of thing. Like I'm playing Thousand Year Door right now. I'm only about 3 hours in at the time I'm recording this. So, by the time you hear Thousand Year Door next week, you'll hear a much more thought out opinion on it. But when I was playing that, like it very little changed between Paper Mario and this so far. I'm only 3 hours in. There are some things that have changed already 3 hours in, but it still feels like this is just another Paper Mario game, so which isn't a bad thing. It's a good amount of iteration, but it's playing it safe in a weird way. And this game, like I've never seen an RPG play like this. It is so different, and for better or worse. Like I don't always think it works, but when it works, it really works. And when it misses, it's not always the most fun. Specifically, like you mentioned the Hammer Bros and the jump rope thing. That's fucking awful. That is one of one of the worst moments of the game. I admire the attempt to do it, and also it's meant to teach the player timing because it's in a space where you don't have to worry about getting a game over. So I don't mind that. I understand its purpose. I just don't think it works. I think that section is needlessly difficult. and we can go into it a little bit more later on, but the final boss also is unnecessarily difficult
Oh
compared to
yeah.
the rest of the game. Like the game itself was challenging enough, but the final boss was just like, fuck you. That's what it is. That final boss is a whole fuck you to the player.
That
But I admire this game for just how ballsy it was, because especially if you think about it, in 2003, like RPGs didn't really tinker with these types of mechanics. The fact that like it doesn't necessarily feel like just an iteration of Paper Mario, where like Paper Mario feels like an iteration of Super Mario RPG. Like they did a pretty big iteration. There's a couple big steps there, but it feels like you can still see Super Mario RPG's DNA in Paper Mario.
Mm-hmm.
You can still see it in Superstar Saga, but like the gameplay is so far removed from, like, the only real thing that's the same is the timed hits and the timed defense, like to block
yeah.
attacks and stuff like that. But there is so much stuff that they do in this game that is just really interesting. And like I had issues with the combat, but also even some of the exploration stuff, like where, Luigi gets his thunder thing and then it freezes Mario and you have to maneuver through a maze while there's like spikes trying to get you, because you have to be able to move in that specific way where you're both like stationary, sort
Right.
of like where you'll move in unison, and you can't do that perfectly without the thunder technique. That's not always fun. Like I admire them trying it. I don't think it was a great
Oh yeah.
idea, but at the same time, I don't hate it. I'm kind of mixed on it. So I kind of am going back and forth where, like, overall I did like this game's combat and the gameplay, and I actually really like the exploration despite some of the issues with it, and despite some of, or sorry, not the issues, my issues, I should clarify, despite some of my issues with it, and despite some of the parts later on where there's like sections where there's like this obnoxious platforming with those two fire things and the lightning thing, where it's so time based and it's really difficult to do. But overall, I thought I was really impressed by it. I was really impressed by how big of a swing they took, because they didn't have to. They could have played it safe, and they didn't. They really swung for the fences.
That's why I really admire it. And I think I disagree a bit. I definitely like that the two brothers are on the two buttons, and I love all the defense stuff when you're fighting. I really do. I think all that stuff is fun in combat. Yes, even the last boss. I really like all the stuff that happens there. There isn't really any moment that made me feel like, oh man, can we? It's like you said, it's difficult, right? But I don't think it's like overly so. And I think it's good that it's difficult, because it really makes you be like, okay, you better learn this shit. You better dodge this thing. You can't just tank all these hits. Okay, this time you better learn to do that. And I like that the game pretty much forces you to, and learning the timing on the bros attacks, right? Because it's like the more you use them, the more you get, proficient at it, and you can kind of set your difficulty there too, right? You can set it to be harder timing. So it's like, okay, I can do more damage. I really like that they give that to the player. And it's like you said, I love things that swing for the fences, but in my opinion, they hit a home run. I really enjoy all that stuff. I totally understand how you feel, though, at the same time. I get why all that stuff might not be fun for everybody.
One area that really had me tearing my fucking hair out was when you first go underwater, and it's got all that like coral or spikes or some shit on the ground, and you have to keep tapping A and B to make them both float and swim and shit. And there were the bloopers and the fish and shit that you could run into in battle. But when you come out of battle, if you're not paying attention, you would, if you touch the spikes, basically it brings you back to the beginning of the level, like the little pipe that you came out of. So if you're not paying attention, if you get far enough and you battle and you're not paying attention out of battle, you'll hit the spikes, take damage, and go back to the beginning of the fucking area, and that sucks ass.
And just to clarify a little bit, Andre, I actually do like the mechanic of putting the brothers on different buttons. I just think some of the implementation of the combat wasn't always good.
Okay.
I shouldn't say good. I didn't enjoy it. Just to
No,
clarify.
I totally understand that.
I love the idea of it. I just didn't like all of the execution. I would say about 75% of its execution I enjoyed, but there's 25% is pretty sizable, where there's moments where I'm like, this is annoying as shit. But like something that I did like, even though I had issues with about 25% of it, there was so many cool ideas that they were able to do with this, where like you would have to pay attention to the enemy's animation to know which brother it was going to attack. And that's a fun puzzle. It's a really fun puzzle where they don't tell you what it is. Or if you really don't feel like figuring out, if you hit A and B at the same time, you can just do both at the same time.
Right.
Sometimes that can dick you over, because if there's an enemy that attacks shortly after, there is usually a cooldown time of like a second or half a second. And so if, especially with like the hammers and stuff like that, so you want to be careful with it. But I overall really liked it, and I was just impressed by how big of a swing they went for it. It was really cool.
Yeah, I do agree, and I do like that. It's like you said. I do like there is attacks where you can kind of play it both ways. You can kind of press both, but you still have to get the timing down. That's the important part. You still have to have the correct timing. There are times you can press both buttons, but you still have to like nail that. So I think that's the important part more than like figuring out A or B. So. Yeah, it's fun, and I like that the game is built that way, whether intentionally or unintentionally. I just think it's so brilliant at every turn regarding that, especially compared to the two games before it.
It feels pretty intentional with how they designed it. And specifically so much that they have puzzles where they kind of make you break the game's logic in a way that you weren't expecting, specifically the ones where when you're traversing around the world, and they make you split up the bros onto different levels.
Oh yeah.
And you have to I couldn't get all of them. Some of them were a little too tricky for me, but you would split up to different levels, and then you would have to kind of move it around so that way you could get both of them underneath a block, and so that way you would both jump at the same time, and it would activate it. That hitting both of those blocks at the same time would activate like a bridge or something, or bring down a wall or something like that for you to progress through to the next area, to whether it's a secret or to the next part of the game. I really like that. I also really liked the the traversal mechanics of Luigi's big jump and Mario's hover spin. I loved that. I loved how it very much feels like Mario and Luigi. Like it feels like a Mario game. It feels like they're trying to take a Mario game and allow you to do some platforming mechanics in an RPG. And they've done that before in Super Mario RPG, as well as obviously Paper Mario. It does not work in Super Mario RPG. I love Super Mario RPG, but its platforming segments are not good. They don't do a good job with it. There's moments it works, but by and large, specifically at the end of that game, the platforming segments do not work. Paper Mario, those work because they're very simple. They're mostly they're also on a 2D plane. You're moving from left to right for the most part. So they don't really have to worry too much about this. This does this faux 3D, I mean, it's not 3D at all. It's all on a 2D plane, but they make you like kind of look at height in different ways and interesting ways. And there's so many different ways to traverse, and they don't punish you for failing, which is important. Like Mario RPG punishes you for failing by making you go all the way back. I know there's moments, like Aaron said, if with the spikes, but like it's the traversing over that area is so easy to do, like in the underwater segment, versus traversing over the area that would send you back in Mario RPG was not easy. You could die a whole bunch of times. You could get brought back, a whole bunch of times just from the first jump in that game. Versus in this, if you were brought back from, or you died from missing a platforming or like a traversal segment, you had to almost purposely try in some points to do that. Like you had to really like force yourself. And like I think they kind of figured out a lot. Like if you want to do platforming mechanics in an RPG, you have to make it so they're a puzzle as opposed to a skill test or a twitch reflex test.
Yeah, but they are generous with, like, okay, it's like you were saying with the sections that you didn't like, where you have to do the zap with you have to move in that sort of vertical line with Luigi. Yeah, okay, so you get spiked by the rolling thing, but you just get set back right there. You could just try
Yes.
again. You can just keep doing it because they understand that it's probably kind of difficult. Also, this is one of the most generous games I have ever seen with save points. There are so many.
Yep.
They are all over the place. They want you to succeed. They know it's difficult. They understand, but they're also like every few screens almost, it feels like they're giving you a save book. So, by the way, I love that RPG trope. I love when saving things is a book. You're writing a book, or they have even some. I think there's some games they even have the quill pen where it's like, oh, I'm scribbling right here in the book, right?
Final
Like
Fantasy
I love
9,
that.
man. The Moogle like flips,
Whoop, whoop.
brings out a book and
Whoop,
does like a
whoop.
full front flip with a quill and
That's
floats
right.
down. It's so
Yeah.
adorable. I fucking
I
love
love that. Yeah, and
I love-
this game takes a while to save, so they have that little erase, and then they are right in the area where you're
Yeah.
in. Yeah, I love that thing.
And I had to take your pictures for for your passports,
Oh,
and you can do different cool little poses.
You know, can I please all the charming shit. I just like we talked about the Italian gibberish, right? That's stupid. I love that shit. I love when you're in the menus and like you're switching between Mario and Luigi and they like, shove
I
each
was
other
gonna
out of the
say this.
way.
I was
Yeah.
gonna. I was literally just thinking this. They're like, yeah,
Yeah.
whoa.
Ooh,
Yep.
they shove each other out of the way in the mirror because, like, oh, it's my turn, bitch. Like, I'm just
Or like
yeah.
how that Toad sees Mario's dick at the beginning too. He like runs into the Mario in
That
the
was
shower.
that was so weird. I loved it. He was so embarrassed. It was weird.
Oh, another thing I was going to mention too. I don't know if you guys have played the 3DS remake or not, but
I
that
have
shit is
not.
so like they really not dumbed it down, but they made it like a lot easier because in the 3DS remake they added this emergency guard where you can hold, I forget which button, but you can hold a button basically just to block hits. So they
Mhm.
made you don't really need to jump any like ever
Well, that's
or
kind
use
of
your hammer.
dumb. Like
Yeah.
there's no challenge then. Like I'm listen, I'm the type of person who I don't play on the hardest difficulty. I don't mind a challenge, but I also don't like it when a game like completely dicks me over and people listen to the show know which games I usually rail on. I'm not going to repeat them again. But like uh this doesn't feel like I never really felt dicked over by this game. Like even my issues
Yeah.
with some of the platforming stuff. So like removing that challenge entirely, like that's almost the entire point of the battle is they actually made attack and defense, like offense and defense, a similar mechanic versus the other Mario RPG games. They don't really like, yeah, you can get a timed attack to dodge, but like this made a whole mini game out of it, whether it's jumping or timing your hammer attack or stuff like that. Like like that's a core part of the game, and just to give the players an automatic block button without any effort, that's I don't like that.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's not even like there's a different difficulty option or anything like that to turn it on. It's just it's always there in
that
case you need it.
sucks.
But they also added the ability to save at any time.
Oh, come on,
Um,
man.
and they did.
The game was already really generous with its saves.
Yeah, you don't need, I don't know, man. I feel like a lot of stuff in the name of what we call accessibility just kind of is not it. I got so mad at Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania a couple years ago because you just have unlimited lives now. You just have unlimited lives. And as you can imagine, that ruins all the Super Monkey Ball and Super Monkey Ball 2
Mhm.
courses because they revolve around getting the bananas and like
Yep.
getting your lives up. Now you have unlimited lives. There's no point in having bananas. The entire level design was around, okay, if you take this harder path, you can get more bananas. Now it doesn't even matter. It's like they didn't understand their own game. So I'm with Josh. I really don't like when games just don't seem to understand their own product. Sometimes I get it. It's not being ported by the people who made it. I understand. At the same time, it's like, come on, man.
Well, and
Yep.
it's extra frustrating because like you can see when game developers do it right in a sense. This isn't a remake, but it's an example of a gameplay genre or a series evolving and iterating. Super Mario Odyssey, where they basically said fuck lives don't matter anymore. So what's the point of collecting coins? They make collecting coins fun in Mario games. Like the act of collecting coins is fun to do, but they also use them to spend money and all that other stuff, like
Yep.
you to get outfits and other stuff like that. But what they did realize, like what makes 3D Mario games fun, exploration, traversal. So don't penalize death all that much. You lose a couple coins, oh no, but they give you so many things to explore with all the stars, with all the shine or whatever the fuck, the moons, excuse me. I'm going through all the different Mario 3D
All the
Mario
different
games.
shapes.
Shine, stars, what are we doing?
Moonshine.
But
Pyramids.
yeah, the
Moonshine.
pyramids. But like they change it where it's like, okay, well, the live system doesn't work anymore for this game. Like it's an antiquated thing. We want to update it. We want to make it. We want to bring some quality of life improvements. How can we do that and still make it feel like Mario? And they did that in Odyssey. Whether you like it or dislike it, but it, it still feels like a Mario game.
Mario Odyssey is my favorite game of the 2010s. So you are talking to a Mario
game.
Odyssey liker.
Hell yeah.
It's a phenomenal game.
Mm-hmm.
And that it didn't lose the identity of what's Mario. If you're going to take Superstar Saga and completely erase half of the battle mechanics, that kind of defeats the purpose of like what you're trying to do in Superstar Saga is having the bros have individual timed attack and individual timed defense. Like that's a very core that's a very core mechanic, I would say. So that's just weird. They decided to like if you want to make it easier, just be more generous with the timing windows. That's all you have to do.
Be more generous with that, or make enemies take less HP or something. Whatever. There's a couple ways to tweak it where they didn't have to do that. But whatever. What do I know, huh?
Yeah, it really didn't need a remake in the first place. All they really had to do, if they really wanted it on 3DS, well, I guess maybe they're not the ones in charge of whether or not GBA games come to 3DS, but yeah, just have Nintendo put the game on 3DS. Then boom, there you go.
Well, now it's on Nintendo Switch Online, so I can play it. Yeah, but yeah, before there was just all the charming. You know what I liked, and I should have mentioned this during when we were talking about humor. I love when like Bowser gets flattened by something or whatever, and you're fighting Fawful for something, and then flattened Bowser keeps coming out like a pancake and giving you advice. It's like, hey, by the way, actually. That was really funny, right? That was a funny way to do it. If I have to say anything bad about this game, a little too much tutorializing. A little too much.
Oh my god,
definitely.
Yeah, when you get the new powers and like the hammers and shit.
Little too much.
Hey, do you want to learn how to use this? And you hit no, and they're like, I really think you should learn this. And you hit no again, and they're like, they just keep cycling through it. Don't give me the illusion of choice, you son of a bitch. Let me skip it.
Yeah, it's just a little, and I get it. There's a lot of little mechanical things in this game that you should learn. At the same time, I just got through playing Astrobot, which doesn't stop the action for a second. And there's so many things in that game you learn just by playing the game. And I get it. It's a platform. It's a totally different thing. And actually, I'm glad I mentioned Astrobot, Josh, because by the way, when you were talking about references and stuff, I don't know if you guys have played this game, but there's like a ton of PlayStation references. Those aren't obnoxious either. You don't have to know anything. There's an entire Ape Escape level. You don't have to know anything about Ape Escape. You're for all you know, you have a net now and you're catching a bunch of monkey bots. That's it. You don't ever have to know what that is to get that and to think that's fun. And yeah, I think like Superstar Saga is good. You don't have to have played Luigi's Mansion to get a kick out of EGAD. You don't need to know that, right? You can just enjoy it. So, yeah.
You don't have to know who Kathy Griffin is to get the knock knock jokes. But all right, unless either of you have anything to add to the gameplay, we're going to move on over to visuals, audio, and just the overall aesthetic that the game was trying to go for. And I'll kick off this one real quick. One, obviously, the soundtrack is phenomenal. It's Yoko Shimomura. Like we praised her at the beginning of the episode. It's a fantastic soundtrack. It's really great and creative iterations on classic Mario songs that don't like you hear it and you're like, oh, that's a Mario song, but it doesn't feel like it. It's Mario. It feels like Mario, but it's different enough that it feels like it's its own thing. Yeah. So she did fantastic with that, and also the visuals. I love the sprite art in this. I adore the sprite art. I love the Mario and Luigi sprite art. I love who's it? Prince Peasley.
Oh yeah.
He's like how he always is like has his flowing hair and stuff like that. It's the animation is really good. Like just everything about this, how it looks. I love the world. I love the enemy and villain design. Like Cacletta is such a fun looking villain. Same with I quoted them in the beginning. I keep forgetting their goddamn name. Fawful, thank you. Fawful's really fun to look at. It just everything about this visually in the colors, like even like I'm looking at the box right now, like the production art for it used to promote the game just looks amazing. Like it's very storybook, very much like this would be something that you would read in like a kid's storybook, and I mean that as a compliment. It's wonderful. Like I really enjoyed the visuals of this game quite a bit, and I'm looking through my box copy now, and I actually have like a poster. They came with a little mini
Yep,
poster of it.
I
I'll
had
have to
that thing.
I'll
Yep.
have to take a picture of it and send it to you both in Discord or something like that.
Yeah, it's visually, this game is insane. You're right with the storybook. I never really thought about it that way, because I think people think of like Paper Mario like a literal like storybook, or something like a Yoshi story, which is also like literally like a book, has a book
Mhm.
aesthetic. Yeah, the Mario or Superstar Saga definitely does look that way, with all the with just the like it's like you said, it's the style of art. And I really do think it's an audio visual thing, because Yoko Shimomura's music, like when you're on sort of like the main, like the around the castle, like those sorts of areas, that song that plays there is very storybooky, in my opinion.
Mhm.
It's very it's so good. Um it's You mentioned Prince Peasley. I can't get enough of whenever he flips his hair and the screen turns white. Shing, right? I love that.
He's a
That's so
G.
good. I wish he had done. I mean, he does it like 50 times in the game. He could do it 50 more times, and it would not bother me. Shit, I just love all the animations. It's like I said, you get into that battle, you're dancing. Why are they
Yeah.
dancing? That's crazy. I never thought I'd turn on a fucking RPG and I get into a battle and the people are dancing, waiting for my input commands. That's crazy shit. That is so good. It's unbelievable. See, I wonder what came first. I wonder if they heard Yoko's battle theme. It's like, okay, now they got to dance,
I wa-
or
I mean, the battle theme is kind of similar to Mario RPGs. It's not the same, but it's kind of got a similar bop to it.
yeah.
You
Mhm.
know, so I wonder, because like the characters in that characters in that I feel like have a dance, and like I mentioned in the Super Mario RPG episode, in the remake, when characters level up, all the did you play the remake at all, Andre? I'm
I did
assuming
not.
no, since you have not. So when you level up in the remake, instead of like just seeing like, okay, here's like the three different attributes and the character that leveled up, they're all on a stage and all the characters are dancing in the background, cheering on the character that just leveled up.
Wow.
And the
Oh yeah.
spotlight gets put on them. It is so fucking charming.
That's so
And
cool.
it just kind of reminds me of the same vibe that this game is, where it's just this kind of this fun little happy-go-lucky type of adventure.
Yeah, that's just excellent. I love stuff like that. God, I love like when you're doing a long section where they're separated and they come back together and they hug. It's like
Yeah.
Mario, Luigi. I love that animation. It's so
Mario.
good. Yeah,
Another
along with the
reference.
yeah, it's just excellent. Every visual thing. Like I said, it's stuff that's from other games. Like we talked about the Dr. Mario viruses, or even like the piranha
Mhm.
plants, or stuff that you see from or like all the ways they dress up the Goombas. Right. I
Yeah.
think it's
Yep.
yeah, and it's just like man, all that stuff is so good. The way I want to say this too, is that I probably should have mentioned this during combat, or we're talking about exploration, but it's good to say now because it's an audio visual thing as well. The Koopa kids are
Mhm.
here.
Yeah.
I need you guys to understand they have not been around for so long, like since Super Mario World, basically. So it's just like, for them to be in this game was crazy to me. That was so fucking cool. You're getting down to this into this game. Oh, I'm going to Bowser's Castle. I get to fight every single one of these. What? They're back, and each one is a little mini boss battle. Again, I know that part's lost of time, and maybe you have to be someone of my age to even appreciate that, because like if you're a kid, you're not really going to necessarily, I mean, you might, right? You may have played Mario 3 or Super Mario World, or in this case Super Mario Advance, right? And
Mhm.
even if you did, you didn't have the passage of time for them being gone so long. Right. So for
Mhm.
me, this was like a really special treat that the Koopa kids were in this game, and they look super cool.
It's funny, we went on a whole rant about how, like, referential stuff isn't always the best. I don't think they work in this instance. The boss fights are fun, but, like, they feel so haphazardly thrown in terms of the narrative. It's like, "Oh, okay, now the Koopa kids are here. We didn't see them before." Uh, I don't hate it. Like, it doesn't obviously ruin the game. It makes the finale that much more grand, so I don't have an issue with them being in it. It just kind of felt like all of a sudden, like, "Oh, hi, Koopa kids. Welcome back," I guess.
Yeah, it does feel like that. You're correct. It is kind of like haphazardly thrown in, but like just the fact that they're there, the fact that someone remembered. I mean, I don't think there
Mhm.
was like write-in campaigns to Nintendo, bring back the Koopa kids or whatever. Like I don't think that was happening. But again, like 10, 11, 12 years back then felt like an eternity. Right. So like in like some generations have gone on and it's like, okay, I guess it's just 2D Mario of the past. Now they're here now.
Mhm.
So yeah, I do agree with the way they sort of appear, but the fact that they're here and they're fun to fight and the whole bit is just loved it. I just
Loved it.
back then, and it was good now too when I in my replay. So yeah, good reference.
Real quick before I throw it over to you, Aaron, to talk about the visuals and music and everything, one character model I have to shout out only because when I was playing it, I have a 3-year-old daughter and she was watching me play this. She likes Mario. She likes watching me play games. And the first thing she says, so you might figure it out when I say this character's name. I'm trying to actually find it. I was looking at I have the manual up in front of me, and now I can't find all the character lists. I believe her name is Queen Bean,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah, yeah,
the
the
very
big
first,
lady.
the what? Sorry,
The big lady.
the big
Yeah.
lady. Well, the very first thing that my 3-year-old daughter, I don't know if I should be worried or not. She just goes, "Boobies." I don't know if I should be concerned or not, or the
Hey,
fact that she knows the at least the common term for that part of the anatomy. That's
Mhm.
fine, but we do teach her at least for we do try to teach her the proper terminology, but I
Mhm.
guess we didn't with that. And so the first thing she saw with Queen Bean was she, without hesitating, just goes boobies. And I went,
Hey.
yes.
Yes, that is
Yes,
correct.
you're not wrong. They are there.
Hey, you can't ignore them. I mean, hey, I mean, what
It's
can I
just
say, right?
it was just the fact that it was my 3-year-old that just like no fucks given, just like boobies.
Yeah, it's
Oh, it
just
was amusing.
that's pretty
Uh,
good.
anyway, Aaron, I just had to get that in there before I forgot. Aaron, I want to throw it over to you. Your thoughts on the visuals, the
Yeah.
music, the overall aesthetic, all that stuff.
Yeah, everything, like the visuals for a GBA game, they're really, really expressive. The characters are.
Hmm.
I mean, because even like the small, dumb, charming shit, like when you're in battle and you go to use an item, and like say you're Luigi and you're using an item on Mario, you'll see him like toss it over to Mario, and then like if
Hmm.
it's a mushroom or whatever, Mario will swallow it, and it'll be like the Popeye almost animation where his neck like is long and he's swallowing it, and he's like dun
Mhm.
like other RPGs. They take the easy route and they'll just have the character holding a fucking item in the air, and then bam, ally is healed. But they go the extra mile here, and they have Mario tossing it to Luigi or vice versa, or um, the um, fuck, what was it? What was it the Chicola shit called? The Chicola
The
Prime or
Chocola
something?
Cola.
Yeah, so that when you get to that bit where the old man is telling the jokes to the cola, and then he's like, "Ha ha ha! Fuck you! Now you have to fight the Chicola Cola."
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
and then the Chicola Cola is this like goopy slime monster. Like the animations on that are also really cool and like really fluid for a GBA game. It's nuts, man. Everything just looks. Again, they didn't need to remake it. This didn't need a
They
remake.
really didn't.
It's just it looks so good as it is, man. And the soundtrack is so fucking good. Of course, you got all those like throwbacks to like you have the da na 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 when you're in
Mhm.
like the little underground areas. You have throwbacks to all sorts of Mario shit, but you have like brand new tracks like the bop and battle theme, dude. Like I could see. I wish we had video so I could do Luigi's little like goof dance that he does during battle where it's like dun, 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 dun,
incredible. I like that they dance even while waiting for you to pick their stat while leveling up. I love that little butt dance that Mario does. He's kind of just waiting. Which one are you gonna pick? Right? Like it's excellent.
Oh, and the animations when you level up too, I really love that shit where it's like you already feel like it's just a gigantic victory because they're like duh, nah, 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 and then they do a little cool little pirouette spin and they're like doing their cool pose.
Yeah.
And you can level up.
Yeah. It's
And then
really
like
it's nice.
the word level up has that like 3D effect that's like it's thrown in your goddamn face and it's like cool, okay, well +5 on stash, I guess.
I powered up stash a lot this run. I don't know why. I did a lot of stash.
Well, doesn't stash
good.
help your crit, right? Isn't that what that stat is? It's like your luck stat or something like that.
And you get a discount at stores.
Yeah. It's
oh, okay. I didn't know that.
So it's like it's both. Yeah. So it's really so I had no problem buying a bunch of the stuff that I needed and items and stuff this time because of a lot of stash.
Because you got a lot of stash.
Because a lot of stash.
A lot of stash.
I just love so much about like how like the enemy designs are all so interesting. I'm watching a playthrough right now as we're talking just to kind of keep the visual references in front of me. But like even like the world around it, like what's the main castle village in the town where Lady Lima is?
Beantown.
Beantown.
Something.
I love Beantown.
Bean Kingdom.
Yeah.
Yes, Bean Kingdom. There's just so much to enjoy about how it looks and feels, and even like when you get to the end and you see and Cackletta turns a Bowser into Bowletta, like that design is just amazing. I also really love like when you get down to the southern continent, like these are just all things visually, like they're not connected to each other other than the fact that they're in this game, but like when you get down to like the southern part of the map and it's like you're kind of in like a swampy area and it's all these disparate like grassy islands. I just love the look of that. Then there's also like the mini game where like you have to like shoot Mario, like Mario gets inflated up and you have to color the dresses and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
there's a lot of cool, like even just like I know that's not necessarily visuals, but there's just so much about this game's overall aesthetic and vibe that I really really enjoyed. The world feels so comical and so silly, but in such a fun way. You also get to see Yoshi's in this game.
Yep.
There's just a lot.
Oh yeah, the Yoshi stuff was really. Oh, you know what? That's something. I really appreciated that about the game, where it's like, oh, you gotta get these things for the Yoshis or something. And a lot of games to just make you dick around for hours. No, they just put them on the map. You know exactly where they are. You just have to go get them. And I love that. It just doesn't waste your time because it's not really that fun to just go around and just like look for every single little thing. Like that's not really that good. So like the fact that they just tell you is excellent. I think that's great.
And I would normally hate that type of thing, a la like, Dragon Quest 2, where they give you a vague direction of saying go southeast, and while you have to deal with 1,000 random battles. Well, like when this happened, when I got to this portion of the game that you're talking about, Andre, and I had to go collect all the things for the Yoshi, I was pissed. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I have to backtrack over all these areas, but then you do it, and it's really not that bad. Like I don't like that they make you do it, but if they're going to make you do it, it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, you know exactly where they are, and you just kind of pop up and do it. So it's like, it's not really that big a deal to me. Maybe the only annoying thing is that, God, okay, I don't know if I was just the one that was being dumb. Is the Lakitu like hella aggressive or something? Because he like really just tosses like the spinies right on top of you like every second. Like it's just really a lot. And they're at that point of the game, they're so easy. They're not any challenge. So it's just like, okay, stop. And if you run away, you're going to lose coins. So you can't do that. So it's like, I guess I have to fight these. But yeah, other than that, I definitely didn't mind traversing around and looking for stuff.
Just high jump to it. Just high jump to the Lakitu.
I mean, I know you can do that, but it's also like sometimes it's like, okay, let me fumble around and get to the right. Okay, a Spiny's on top of me. All right, fine. Yeah. So it's just like, okay, got it. But I know how to beat it. But the first time I encountered it, I was like, dude, can you just not? You're not a challenge right now.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, this is kind of random, but I don't know when else I'm going to mention it. I love all the coin block stuff where it's like, where
Oh,
it's
that
like, yeah.
thank you for reminding me of that. Finish what you were going to say, but I that the coin block thing reminded me of something.
Okay, yeah, no, I was just gonna say that I love that, like, okay, you go to a coin block in Mario, you hit it a bunch of times so it runs out, but then you have ones where it's like, oh, you have to hit back and forth between Mario and Luigi. Oh, you can only hit it when it says Mario or Luigi. Or this one goes back and forth faster and faster, hit the coin block back and forth until you get to, like, I don't know, my record is only like 23 or something like that. I'm not really that good at that game, but like I love that there's a lot of inventive coin block stuff in this game.
And then speaking of the aesthetic, the overall vibe of the game, I love that when you get to the one part of as I think it's in like Woohoo University or Woohoo University or whatever it is, where there is like a section, like an R&D section of dedicated to that university of just coin
Oh,
blocks.
yeah.
Like you can see how they decided to like create the coin blocks and stuff, even though there's really not much else in that section of the universe. Like you can go there, but there's not like a whole lot of interesting things there. But it's still like I love this the world that they built, even though I will say traversal, while it is fun, they don't make it the most easy to travel from one spot to another. They do
Yeah.
give you fast travel, which is great, but like if you're just trying to get around to certain areas, it can be a little tedious. But overall, I don't know, I really can't complain too much about it. I was actually pleasantly surprised how much I ended up enjoying this game, considering at the time I was playing this, I had just beaten 2 other Mario RPG games,
Yeah.
like back to back. And normally, if I do what I did with the Dragon Quest games, where I played 3 in a row straight, like back to back to back, I don't know how I'd survive it. But this game like was so much better than I was expecting it to be. After I was worried it was going to be just more of the same, and just everything about it, between the visuals and the gameplay, just there was so much charm in it.
Absolutely. I totally agree. It feels so different though. I really do feel like Mario RPG, Paper Mario, and Superstar Saga are 3 very, very different games. Like not just aesthetically, but just everything, in my opinion. They share the timed hit stuff, but even between all 3 of those games, it's different. But yeah, I understand. You can get a little burned out. Here is another Mario RPG. Like I do understand how that might happen, but yeah.
I think just what I enjoyed so much about this is just seeing the evolution of what the Mario RPG games were doing at this time. Like the timed hits are a thing that's across the board with all of them. That makes sense with the whole how Mario's a platformer, so you're going to have some type of timing thing. That makes sense. But like just seeing the evolution from like Mario RPG, like I said at the beginning of the episode, the sense of humor in Mario RPG is not the same as this, but
No.
you could see the evolution of it. Like you can see it's a little bit more silly and tongue in cheek in Super Mario RPG. And by the time you get up to this one, it's just like it might as well just be Chuck Jones writing this, like it's
Yeah.
and I mean that as a compliment. Like
Oh, yeah.
it's really funny and interesting and slapstick and just all over the place and just zany. I think what I love so much about this game's like I know, not to tie it back to writing how we started the episode, but what I love so much about it is that it's just not afraid to just go balls to the wall. It's not afraid to do insane things with the Mario franchise, and I think it's not afraid to be weird. And I think
Yeah.
sometimes game developers are afraid to go too weird with their sequels, and just understandably so. Sometimes if you go too far away from the source material, then you alienate the original players or the original fans. But sometimes you're able to find stuff like that just does it in the right way. And I was listening to Retronauts a while ago, and I think it might have been Bob over there, or maybe it was Jeremy. I think it was Bob though, who brought up this point, and I kind of agree with it. I want to repeat it here. The fact that like Mario 2 was so different than Mario 1 and 3, and same thing with like Zelda 2,
Yeah.
was so different than the original Legend of Zelda and Link to the Past. Um, it kind of gave Nintendo license to be like, we can be weird with
Yeah.
ours, as long as you can keep the vibe the same. You can do weird shit with your series and it'll still work. You still see them doing that today.
Yeah.
Look at Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle and like the turn-based strategy games and stuff like that. Like that's something that like Nintendo's not developing it, that Ubisoft is, but Alpha Dream developed this. That wasn't a Nintendo. That it's kind of like a second second tier develop. Not a third party. It's like a second party developer, I guess. But like still, it's cool to see, and the fact that they allow them to be weird. And I wish more game developers did stuff like this. And Nintendo, I'm not trying to even just sing Nintendo's praises. Like they still do stuff like this, like I mentioned. So I'm happy that they still do it. But like this game just reminds me so much of just let your game developers do weird stuff with IPs and see where it happens, because this game rules.
Yeah, and I think like to speak to Nintendo, they also know when to not, because like people have been saying for 20 years, where's a new F-Zero? Guys, they don't have an idea. If they don't have an idea, they're not just going to make it. They clearly are done doing that. They did everything they want with F-Zero. Just let it be. Maybe you should have done everything you wanted with F-Zero as well, right? Like I get it.
Yeah, I don't see what else they could do after F-Zero GX, man. Like,
99, they did F-Zero 99, but that
right, but that's like
but that makes sense though. It's a racing game with 99 people. It's a really smart way to incorporate a famous IP of yours,
right? But
it's a really smart way to do it.
I was on Flashback 64 recently to talk about Mario 2, which is not a Nintendo 64 game, but that's what I was there to talk about. And I said exactly what you said on that show about Mario 2 and Zelda 2. It just signaled. Nintendo just signaled to everybody, hey, we're going to do whatever the fuck we want. And that's it. Like, you're not going to get the sequel you always think you're going to get, and we're just going to make the things that we want to make. And I think those two games are super important in Nintendo's history just because of that. But besides the fact that I just love Zelda 2. It's one of my favorite Zelda games, period. But yeah, you are correct on that front. I just wanted to tell you I agree, for sure.
Aaron, I want to throw it over to you because I feel like we've been talking all much. Any more thoughts on the visuals and aesthetics and stuff like that? I know I did beforehand, but I just want to make sure you get some final words in before we go into final thoughts.
No, it's awesome, man.
We'll just go right into your final thoughts then. What are your final thoughts on the game?
Final thoughts. Yeah, it's a fucking fantastic game. If you have not played Superstar Saga, please, for the love of God, do so. It's so easy to get now that it's on Nintendo Switch Online.
Sure is.
If you're into emulating, anything can run a Game Boy Advance game. Like, you could have a smart toaster and it could probably run Game Boy Advance games.
You can jump with the toast switch to bring your toast down and up.
That'd be fun. That's the gimmick of Switch 2. It's gonna have a toaster slider button.
Ooh, or the Switch 2 is going to finally be the KF console, hopefully. But yeah, man, no, Superstar Saga is just Tommy and I kind of go back and forth a lot with like what our favorite games are in the series, because like Bowser's Inside Story is really, really, really good, but Superstar Saga just hits a lot of I guess spots that a lot of the other Mario and Luigi games just don't, because it kind of just the whole track record for the Mario and Luigi series kind of goes like it's like that Sony meme where it's like, we're so back, we're so fucked, we're so back, we're so fucked, except for like Superstar Saga, really good, Partners in Time, Bowser's Inside Story, awesome, and then Dream Team and fucking Paper Jam were like,
I really like Paper Jam. I've never played that. I really like Partners in Time. Honestly, I don't like it as much as Superstar Saga. Yeah. But I definitely, like, if this game is like practically like a Superstar Saga is like a 9.5, I would give Partners in Time like an 8. Personally, shit. I think it's really good. But,
I really, everything about Superstar Saga, it feels like more Mario, but like, fuck, I can't think of a good way to explain it. It feels like the most Mario a Mario RPG could be.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
If that, I hope that made sense.
I know that does make sense to me. That's like it's kind of like what I was saying about all the references. Like EGAD is here, the Super Mario 64 castle is here, all the stuff. Koopa Kids are here. It really feels like a. I know this is going to sound like a joke, but I really don't mean it as one. It really feels like a Mario Party. It really does. So,
I'll go next real quick, just so that way, Andre, you can have the final say. Always like to give my guest, at least one of my guests, the final say.
Okay.
And I'm with both of you. I really enjoyed this. I'm definitely not as high on this game as both of you are. I really liked it. I think what I admire more the swings they took at it than 100% the execution. Like if I had to, I don't like to do the whatever out of 10 ratings, but if I had to, I'd give this like solid 7.5 or 8, which to me that's like a good rating. It's not, like 5 would be, just this is just fine, it's average. This is way above average. Like I think this was a really good game. I think this I was impressed by all the new ideas they brought. That's the way I meant to articulate it before. They brought a lot of new ideas to this game, and I think the vast majority of them worked. And I'm happy that the ones that didn't work are still in there, because even if they don't work for me, it was a new idea that they were taking a swing at. And I think if anything we have learned over the last like decade and a half of game development is like we are in the mood for big swings. We want to see something weird and wacky, and if it doesn't work, that's fine. It's fine that it doesn't work. It just the fact that you took an interesting stab at like changing a game's design, changing a mechanic that you might not have seen before, or sorry, not changing, creating a mechanic that you may not have seen before. And honestly, I don't know how the rest of the Mario and Luigi games play, but if they don't do the A and B thing, I'm actually going to be a little sad, because I think that's kind of an interesting mechanic.
They do still do it.
What? Sorry?
They do still do the A and B.
Oh, thank Christ. So because I still have, at the time of recording this, once again, I have yet to play the last 2 games in Mario Month this year, but they will be done shortly, I promise you. So I still have to play Thousand Year Door and Partners in Time. But anyway, I like this game. I like this game quite a bit. I think it was worth playing. I think visually it holds up exceptionally well. The music holds up really well. Like just in general, most of this game just holds up very well. So I definitely recommend it. So Andre, throwing it over to you, final words, and then we'll head on out of here.
You know what? I got to be honest. I don't really think I have anything else. I think you guys said it all. I'm not sure I have anything else to add. I think this is a exceptionally great game and better than I remember it being. And, maybe that'll be it. I think if anyone out there, you haven't played an RPG that you liked back in the day and you haven't played it since back in the day, it'll almost always hold up. Whenever I've gone back to anything that I haven't played since back then, like Earthbound, I played a few years ago for the first time. I was like, yeah, this is just as good as I left it. Me and Aaron have mentioned Grandia 2 way too much in this episode, and it was the same thing. And it's like, yeah, it's just as great as I left it. It's my favorite RPG of all time, Grandia 2. Superstar Saga, I remember really, really liking back in the day. I liked it even more now. I did. So it's just, I feel like this is a genre that holds up the best. So like, yeah, definitely go back and play Superstar Saga. If you have never played it before, you are in for a treat. Shit, I guess, Josh, I came on here last summer talking about Dragon Quest. That absolutely holds up as well. It's just as good as I left it. It's still a really good game. So yeah, I Superstar Saga stands the test of time, and I'm not surprised. I guess I'll just leave it this. I don't, because again, I really want to say this because I don't, again, this doesn't fit into any category. I did not remember at all that Nintendo included their remake of the Mario Brothers arcade game.
Yeah.
In Superstar Saga that they included with every Super Mario Advance game and shit. I didn't remember that was here too, but it's such a weird inclusion. It's like, okay, why not? I guess, but
it doesn't fit, but with the rest of the game, but sure.
Yeah, it's here, I guess. But yeah, I thought that was funny, but yeah, I didn't remember that. Yeah, Superstar Saga, absolutely grade A for me.
Yeah.
It's funny. Apparently, if you can also have with that Mario Brothers battle, you can actually have a multi-pack battle. So it looks like you can play. You with the connection cable or whatever with the extension cable or whatever the fuck it's called.
The extension cord.
It's an extension cord. Extension cord? What? No, the connector cable for the game for the GBA. You can actually like have like you could play multiplayer with this if you want to. So go
yes, you
figure it,
can.
dude.
I've done it.
Oh my god,
I've done it.
That's awesome.
Yep.
But that will do it for this episode, y'all. That will wrap up our conversation on Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. Thank you all so much for listening. To Andre and Aaron, thank you both for joining me. And as usual, for my listeners, where can everybody find you online? What would you like to promote? Andre, we'll start off with you. Where can people find you online?
Shit, I do an episode. I do a podcast that has many episodes called Fine Time. It's a show where it's exactly what it sounds like. We talk about whatever we're playing. Could be something new, like Astrobot. Could be something old, like Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. Whatever we are currently playing, that's what we talk about. We love to talk about current news, like Game Awards or Nintendo Directs, or speculate on what Nintendo's doing. We love to do that stuff. We love to play silly games and like, you know, quiz games and stuff to embarrass each other. It is a very fine time. So come have a fine time with us.
And then throwing it over to our first time guest to shout out his socials. Aaron, where can everybody find you online and what would you like to promote?
Yeah, I mean, you can find literally everything about me except for my social security number on superpodnetwork.com. You can also find Andre there too. He's on the SuperPod Network. Yeah. When I'm not writing canceled game blogs for that website, you can find all of my episodes on there. Me and Jerry, we talk about a different video game topic each week, and we just throw a lot of comedic spice in there, goof around about a lot of really stupid shit.
I'm gonna have both y'all on. I thought of a topic, by the way. I'll tell you later. I'm gonna get you guys on.
Sounds good.
We'll be there. Then yeah, we're taking a short break for the rest of January. We're gonna re-release our episodes from our other show we had going, Retro Rehab. So we'll be back in February. All good to go.
All right. And actually, by the time people hear this, it'll be March, so they'll be back already. So,
all right.
As for myself, as usual, you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram. I keep wanting to say Facebook, Twitter. I'm technically on Twitter, but it's locked and I don't really update it. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can, but it's a locked account at Still Loading Pod over there. But I'm active on mainly Blue Sky now at Still Loading Pod at .bluesky.social, whatever. I just at Still Loading Pod. You can find me over there on Blue Sky. I am on Threads, Instagram, and Facebook at Still Loading Pod. I don't update those as much as I do with Blue Sky, but you can follow me there. If you want to support the show, you can do so in a number of ways. You can give it a 5-star rating or review on whichever podcasting app you use, because that pleases the algorithm gods and helps more people find the show. And that, that makes me feel warm and fuzzy. I like feeling warm and fuzzy. You can also support the show over on Patreon if you really like it and you want to throw a couple bucks my way. It's patreon.com/stillloadingpod. For only $1, you'll get all the episodes earlier with better audio quality, as well as access to patron voting rights, which we recently wrapped up. Actually, there'll be another poll probably happening in another couple weeks by the time this episode comes out. I do quarterly polls, which help guide the direction of the show, where patrons can vote on I'll put 4 games up there and you can help vote for which one you think I should cover on the show next. I also do annual polls like my backlog month poll, which is like 16 games go up and the 4 games with the most votes will get covered in October for backlog month, which I mentioned earlier in the episode. You get all of that for only $1 a month. For $3 a month, you get everything prior plus patron shoutouts, which you heard at the beginning of this episode. For $4 a month, you get everything I mentioned prior, plus 2 mini bonus episodes every month. And for $5 a month, you get everything, all that stuff from all the previous tiers, plus access to my monthly movie podcast, which at the time this episode releases is Still Family, my monthly Fast and Furious movie podcast, where all the guests who join me aren't just friends. Their family. But it's a good time. I'm actually going to be recording the second episode of that. At the time we're recording this, I'm recording the second episode of Still Family in a couple of days. I'm looking forward to it. So that is everything over at patreon.com/stillloadingpod. But that's it. That is all the time I have for you on this episode of Still Loading. Thank you all for joining me. Andre, Aaron, thank you once again.
Thanks.
Yep.
And with all that said, listeners, I will see you all next time.